The ice manipulation technique. This is not only one of the most twisted and cruel forms of manipulation, but it is also often used in a sadistic way. To punish and make the victim suffer, the silent treatment can become complete psychological torture. And those who have experienced it know that it's no joke. To the point that in some cases, rather than manipulation, we would actually be talking about abuse. And despite how serious it is, being given the silent treatment, it's something we've almost normalized because unfortunately there are many people who do it. Above all, I see it in romantic relationships, family relationships, and friendships. So, before analyzing this technique in depth, I want to make it clear to you right now that it's not normal for someone to do this to you and you don't have to tolerate it. On this channel, we're here to understand each other and to analyze people, but we're also here to improve our relationships, to identify which people are good for us, and to relate to others with more independence. Because the more independent you are, both psychologically and financially, the more freedom and better judgment you'll have when choosing your relationships. I remember a patient filled with anxiety, sadness, fear, and frustration. She had a complicated relationship with her mother. They argued often, which can be more or less common when there's friction, working together, and on top of that, living together, but these weren't normal arguments. Whenever something upset her mother, she handled it cruelly. She would ignore her for days, not speaking or even looking at her, walking by as if she didn't exist. They worked and lived together. So just imagine how complicated and hard this had to be, being at home and at work feeling like you were invisible. My patient described really tough scenes to me, crying, begging, "Please look at me, at least say yes or no." But do you think my patient came to therapy because of this? Do you think she saw it as a serious problem? Well, no, she came because she had anxiety, because she had low self-esteem, because she had a lot of fears and phobias that she didn't understand where they came from. She didn't understand why she felt so bad. It seems absurd, but you have no idea how many people are struggling and don't understand why. And what happens is that behind that discomfort, there's a relationship of manipulation or abuse. The thing is, this way of handling conflicts was normalized at home. It's what she had always experienced with her mother, and sometimes when she talked about these episodes, she did so with a certain sense of guilt and responsibility. As if she hadn't made a certain mistake, then her mother wouldn't have felt that way. This comes, of course, from the fact that the manipulator, in this case the mother, makes sure to teach, or rather indoctrinate, her victim into believing that if she has these reactions, it's because they're caused by the daughter. If you didn't do bad things, I wouldn't react like this. Look at what you make me do. Because of you, I end up like this. I don't like it. Who do you think you are? If you behaved well, I wouldn't act this way. How do you expect me to react after what you do? But be careful, not all cases of the silent treatment are so grotesque and so obvious to others. Let's look at another example that will make you realize how normalized this is. Recently, a girl told me she went on a trip with a group of friends. At one point, one of her friends got upset because they didn't do a plan she wanted to do, and how did she handle it? Did she stop talking to her and another girl? During the whole day of the trip, the group kept doing activities, going on excursions, and eating together. And this person, despite her friend's attempts to talk, to understand each other, to fix the situation, what she did was stay silent all day, not speaking to them and not even making eye contact. It was something like, "You've done something I don't like, so I'm going to punish you for the rest of the day." They were very confused. They didn't see this as normal. They didn't understand it. However, her partner, who got angry and gave her the cold shoulder, downplayed it, saying it was normal for her. Every time she gets angry, she won't talk to you for a day or two, but then it passes. It's not that serious. You just have to wait. So now I ask you, how many times have you seen this in friendships, couples, family members? That someone, every time they get angry, upset, or hurt, what they do is stop talking, avoid eye contact, punish, ignore, and since they do it often, their circle has normalized it. They think that's just the way she is, and not only do they tolerate it, but they actually reinforce it. They begin begging, chasing them, and apologizing even without fault. What does the manipulator learn? That they're right and that this is a useful strategy to repeat in the future. With this, I'm already giving you a good clue on how to neutralize this technique. Anyway, let me give you another example, because this kind of manipulation and punishment It often appears in a version that's even more poisonous because it's harder to detect and point out. It's like a more subtle coldness. In this version, the person doesn't stop talking to you completely, they don't ignore you entirely, they might be responding to you, pretending everything is normal, interacting with you. But they do withdraw their affection, they withdraw their consideration, they no longer treat you as kindly as before. They don't have the same warmth, they're not proactive in talking to you. Maybe they stop doing the little things they used to do for you. Maybe they answer you with one-word responses. They no longer look you in the eyes, they don't respond. When you speak in the group, they never stay alone with you. In general, they make you feel like you're being treated worse than you were before. Clearly you notice this, and maybe you decide to ask, hey, is something wrong? I notice you're different. And this is where the most unsettling part can come in. The person denies it. No, nothing's wrong with me. Are you imagining things or making up a story? Everything's the same. In theory, nothing's wrong between you, but in practice, their actions say the opposite, which makes things even more confusing. Because your body feels the punishment, it knows something is happening. That contradiction makes you doubt yourself and think, maybe I'm overreacting, maybe I'm exaggerating, maybe I'm being paranoid, maybe I'm just being annoying. As you can imagine, this ice-cold treatment has a bit of gaslighting to it, so please, when I talk about the ice, don't just think of complete silence. That's its most intense, purest, most punitive version, which usually happens in environments where there's a lot of intimacy and trust, like romantic relationships or family relationships. Whereas the subtle version of the ice is more common in environments where there's less trust or you have to keep up appearances. For example, it's common in work settings, when they want to punish you subtly because it's inconvenient or impossible to do it openly. As you've seen in the 3 examples, the ice technique consists of withdrawing the bond, affection, or attention as a form of punishment. The goal is for the victim to feel rejected, become disorganized, and end up giving in, apologizing, or making up for it in order to restore that relationship. But more than one of you here might be thinking, Claudia Nicolas' psychology, how do I know when it's manipulation and when the person is just feeling bad and needs some time to find themselves? Well, the difference lies in the intention and the pattern. When are we talking about manipulation? First, when the person withdraws their attention from you to punish you and is looking to get a reaction from you. They want you to beg, to plead, to feel guilty, to suffer, to give in, to pay for something, to change your behavior. They know you're suffering but continue because they gain something that reinforces their behavior. Second, when they don't give you any kind of emotional security. In a healthy situation where the person just needs a little time to get themselves together, to think, to reflect, they ask you for distance and silence, yes, but they do it with certainty. Right now I can't talk, I need some time to calm down and understand what I'm feeling, but don't worry because I'm here and we will talk about it. They take some time, but afterwards there's conversation and there's repair. They don't just wait for you to beg or for you to change your stance. And they also don't expect you to act like nothing happened after they've left you feeling anxious, stressed, and scared for days. Third, when it's a pattern, it's not just a bad day or a one-time event. It's a method, a strategy that shows up every time they don't like something, and it happens because it works for them. It's something they use frequently, and that has become normal for them. So when this punishment ends, they expect you to act like nothing happened, as if everything is perfect. Someone who has simply asked you for space understands that this space might have made you anxious and has no problem talking about it with you. On the other hand, someone who wanted to punish you will deny and invalidate your emotional experience. But well, after how hard it was to get the manipulator to talk to you again, you're probably so afraid of, quote-unquote, ruining the situation again that you end up doing it yourself. You'll want to smile and pretend that everything is fine and perfect, and you'll want to set aside what happened out of fear of going back to that point. In short, healthy space is, I need some time, but we'll talk about it later. And the cold shoulder is, I'm cutting off the connection indefinitely, so you'll suffer and learn. Let's see now why this technique works so well. This twisted cold shoulder technique works. It makes you endure and do anything. Because it pushes 3 very deep psychological buttons: attachment, identity, and learning. First of all, humans are designed to seek out and stay in relationships because that's how we feel safe and survive. So when someone important suddenly withdraws the relationship, your brain experiences it as a serious and dangerous threat. All of a sudden, it feels like you've lost that, which for your brain is synonymous with safety and survival. That's why anxiety, rumination, hypervigilance, and an urgent need to fix it are triggered. The body seeks, above all, to restore that bond in order to feel safe again. That's why, when someone gives you the cold shoulder, it's very hard to concentrate on anything else. A normal life, or think clearly, because both psychologically and physiologically you are under total threat and stress. People who fear being alone, have emotional dependency, or fear abandonment are particularly vulnerable to this technique. Tono is the perfect bait to keep you hooked. These profiles fall into the trap of manipulation, but there's another important element to add to this: identity. When someone starts treating you worse or directly erases you, the first thing you do is look at yourself. What did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? Where did I make a mistake? And the thing is, we humans measure a large part of our identity, self-concept, and self-worth by the feedback we get from other people and by how they treat us. And of course, when someone you have a strong bond with, like a family member, or someone whose opinion matters greatly, like a boss, treats you this way, suddenly treats you worse, without any explanation, without any logic, it turns your whole identity, your self-image, and your sense of security upside down. And here comes something important, psychologically. Regaining the good treatment from the manipulator in your mind is the same as restoring your identity. It's like restoring your worth as a partner, as a friend, as a child, or as an employee. Unconsciously, your self-esteem and your self-concept are invested in that relationship, so you will do whatever it takes to get it back. That's why the YOLO can be so destabilizing. It threatens both your bond and your sense of self. And the third element, learning the YOLO technique at an operational level, pure training. Let's see how it works in terms of shaping. The YOLO is a negative punishment. The manipulator tames you by withdrawing, taking away something valuable to you like attention, affection, or presence. And they do it to decrease a behavior in you that the manipulator doesn't like or that isn't convenient for them. This is negative punishment. I eliminate a behavior in you by taking away something good that you had. If they tried to stop it by punishing you, like yelling, that's called positive punishment in psychology, even though it's not actually positive. Which behaviors does the manipulator usually try to suppress? Well, having your own judgment, expressing how you feel, getting angry, not following their demands, pointing something out, setting a boundary, or maybe a mistake you've made, like any human being, but it gets an exaggerated and inhuman response. So the implicit message is, if you're yourself, do something I dislike or make a mistake, I'll withdraw my attention and connection. What does this mean? You learn that those behaviors will be punished because something good you had will be taken away, so you stop doing them. You keep canceling yourself more and adapting to the manipulator's wishes. It doesn't end there. You're also indoctrinated and your behavior changes. This technique uses positive and negative reinforcement, not just negative punishment. First of all, when they stop talking to you, you feel stress, anxiety, fear, guilt, doubts, and you experience a lot of discomfort. Everything is set up for you to want or be able to get the manipulator back. You beg for forgiveness, chase after them, give up your views, change yourself, and try to make amends, all to ease your discomfort by feeling like you're fixing things. Whereas if you simply do nothing, you experience and connect more with that pain. In this way, little by little, it becomes automatic for you that when faced with guilt, discomfort, and doubt, the automatic response is to grovel before the manipulator, which is further positively reinforced, because in the end the manipulator forgives you, treats you well again, and you feel relief, you feel good. Not only are they taking away that discomfort you had, but also, when we're talking about even more perverse figures, they will make sure to bring you very positive and pleasant things to reinforce that behavior of adapting. For example, maybe they start treating you better than ever, maybe they bring you gifts, maybe they do something you've always asked for and they never did. Do you see how this training works? Basically, you are being trained to live by and for the manipulator's expectations. Honestly, you have no idea how many adults grow up without having formed an identity, without having built a self-concept and good self-esteem, because what they've done is erase themselves and completely adapt to avoid this kind of punishment from their parents. It's very serious. Let's consider how to respond and counter the silent treatment. First, remember, not everyone who manipulates does so consciously or intentionally. Many times, they are people with unresolved emotional issues, people who have learned to manage their emotions and relationships this way, with punishments, withdrawal, and silence, because they lack the resources or ability to do it differently. Of course, as always, explaining the origin of something doesn't justify it or mean that we should allow it. I want to remind you that we must clearly distinguish between dark manipulators and gray manipulators. If you're dealing with a cold, manipulative person who lacks empathy and knowingly tries to dominate you, my recommendation is always the same. Keep as much physical and emotional distance as possible. And if you can, leave that relationship, remove that person from your life. If, due to certain circumstances, you absolutely have to deal with him, for example, in work environments. My book, Manipulation and You Don't Know It, details specific self-protection techniques. And there you can also go deeper into how to identify the different types of manipulators and how to distinguish a dark one from a gray one. Today, I want to focus on what you'll encounter most in life: gray manipulators. You'll come across them the most. People who aren't bad in the classic sense, but who have their own problems, wounds, fears, and end up taking them out on the relationship, making you suffer. Let's see what you can do to neutralize the ice, and I'll give you a key point right away. It doesn't stop with more pleading and better behavior. It stops by changing the learning that keeps it going. First idea: if you chase, you reinforce it. The first thing you need to do is not to convince, try to fix the situation, or try to defend yourself. The first thing is to take a stand. And how do we do that? Step 1. Don't go into pleading mode. As soon as you notice you're being given the cold shoulder, your brain's first instinct is to rush to fix it. And that's where people fall into the trap. Sending 20 messages, giving explanations, trying to chase after them, looking for other people to help you, even changing your stance, giving in, or giving gifts. This is literally rewarding the technique. It's reinforcing it in a positive way. So what do we do instead? Well, step 2, we give a single firm message, not aggressive but assertive. I see you don't want to talk now, and I respect that. When you're ready, let me know, but for now, I'll step away completely. Words aren't going to solve the problem, and they won't improve our relationship. So when you feel ready, let me know, and we'll talk about it calmly. And it's very important you say it and then stay quiet, because if you repeat it 10 times, you come back and insist again. That's not a boundary anymore. It's just awkward negotiation where the other person holds the power. Step 3. Apply extinction. What does the silent treatment want? For you to lose control, to be afraid, to feel guilty, to doubt yourself, to beg, to make up for it, to give in. So, extinction is simply about stopping the rewards, stopping responding the way you used to, and not giving the manipulator what they're looking for. Don't try to earn their forgiveness or pretend nothing happened when they reach out. Avoid WhatsApp arguments. Focus on living your life and protecting your well-being. This, which might sound very simple, is actually quite complicated in practice because it really stings. And the thing is, when you've always given the manipulator what they want, when you've always given in to this punishment, to this technique, well, they've normalized it. They're going to expect this reaction from you. They think it's normal, fair, and appropriate because it's what you've always given them. So when you stop reinforcing, when you apply extinction and no longer meet their expectations, well, they're going to feel offended, outraged. They might even accuse you of manipulating or punishing them, and that's normal because they're very used to getting their way. That's why many times it seems like the situation gets worse before it gets better. The drama can really escalate, there can be more punishments, more arguments can happen. And this is where people often fail in the process because they think, I'm doing it wrong, this isn't working, this is going to make things worse. But no, that's exactly what happens when you take away a tool that has always worked for the manipulator. They're going to protest and want to regain their status. So here your mental mantra has to be, if I give in now, everything will be the same as always. If I resist, I can change things. And now let's go to the last step. When they decide to talk to you again, when they grant you their presence and attention once more, don't act as if nothing happened. Don't try to maintain a perfect, positive, idyllic atmosphere, thinking that this will repair or restore the relationship. Because if you act as if everything is normal, ignoring what they've done to you, the message you send is that this is normal and tolerable. Therefore, they will repeat it in the future. But we also shouldn't go to the opposite extreme. We're not going to get into arguments, revenge, punishments, or endless reproaches. What we do is, with assertiveness, point out what happened, what they did, and we invite them to jointly create agreements on how to handle it better in the future. I'm glad you're talking to me again. I'm very happy to have you back with me. I'm happy, but I'm also hurt. It makes me very anxious every time you handle situations this way, and I think it really hurts our relationship. Let's talk about it seriously. Let's communicate how each of us feels in those moments, and let's think together about how we can do it differently next time. And here comes what I call the empathy test in the book. If you express empathetically, assertively, and gently how the manipulator's behavior makes you feel, what happens? And do you invite them to build healthier activities together? And you see empathy on their part, flexibility, understanding, acknowledgement, a desire to do better, and even sincere apologies. It may be a relationship worth working on, and many times that's the case. Because let me remind you that most people manipulate without realizing it and unconsciously. There are people who manipulate in a perverse Machiavellian way, knowing exactly what they're doing and looking to exploit you. Yes, but that's a minority. Now, if the manipulator's reaction to your test of empathy is to play the victim, point fingers, or even do it again, it may be a relationship that's not worth working on. Because although many people manipulate unconsciously, not all of them want to improve, and not all of them want to change that way of living. They prefer to remain victims of their own pathological patterns. I want to emphasize that when dealing with dark manipulators, people with dark triad traits who lack empathy and use relationships instrumentally, there's nothing to talk about here, nothing to do, nothing at all. The coldness is used in a sadistic, Machiavellian, and conscious way, and I've seen this too. And in these cases, the more emotional, physical, psychological, and all kinds of distance, even legal, the better. I truly hope this video has helped you, that it has given you some tools. Please don't normalize being given the cold shoulder in your relationships, whether it's done bluntly or subtly. As we've seen, ignoring someone, giving them the silent treatment, or punishing them is not a healthy or normal way to relate to others. And honestly, when you're constantly being given the cold shoulder by someone, believe me, you have many tools and abilities to change this. Tell me in the comments if you've ever experienced the cold shoulder, or even if you've given it to someone without realizing you were doing it. Bye.